Yeah, shalom everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to King James Bible University Precept Mastery. I'm Elder Michael Johnson. Yo is here and Pastor over here with the university. And we have a pretty good teaching going on today that we got to do some work on this one, because it actually is a good day to do this one, which was really kind of weird as we think about it, what you'll see in a minute. But I do want to show you something before we get started, because about a week ago we were showing you something about Martin Luther King, and I also brought up stuff about Margaret Singer. The interesting thing is one of the sisters, she texts me something. She texts me a video on this lady, and as I told you, what they do when they try to hide things from you, they can be cool with them at the first time, but when they trying to hide something from you, what they do is they start removing stuff from all over the place to where you can't find it. And it was really interesting, because she told me, right in the text said, well, you might already know this, but she sent it anyway. Come to find out, I didn't know of this letter here that this lady actually going to see read. So I want you to really pay close attention to what this woman is going to say. And the same reason why I tell people why I had a problem with Martin, and people don't. It's really weird. But she's going to read something, and you're going to see her. She's going to read it. And I was trying to get her to where I can actually speak with her, but she has no actual contact information to where I can get a hold to her. So I'm gonna show it to you. Then we're gonna go into the actual teaching. But I do want to make sure you see this. So let me transfer this over, and we're gonna go through it.
I'd like to read for you today a letter that was written in December the 10th, 1939, to Dr. C.J. Gamble of Gamble, Procter & Gamble, Cincinnati. And it was written by Margaret Sanger. Dear Dr. Gamble, it's good to know that you are recovering. I also am stepping up and have felt much better the past week. Miss Delp was here for Thanksgiving, and I am more than delighted to learn that she was able to get $250 from the California Birth Control Organization, plus the $600 from the Federation. That's good. She is a go-getter and a live wire, very tactful and charming as well. I think that my pick of her has been justified, even though she is a little higher priced than the ordinary. She has been working on the article to be written by Miriam DeFord, Mrs. Shipley. They are good enough to send me a rough draft for comments. They were good enough to send me a rough draft for comments and suggestions, and the important suggestion that I made was not to include Miss Delp's actual name in the article because of the fact that her sister is married to one of the high spots in the farm security department, and if the enemy started to work on her name, they might make it difficult along the line. Otherwise, I think the article is good. Needless to say, this letter was typed on the old kind of typewriter, and that was in 1939, so it's a little difficult to read. As to my sending suggestions to the Federation, I think it is really unfair for me to do so. I am too far away to have the personal contact of the different reactions, and it only holds up any definite project to have the pros and cons battered about, which makes for more chaos and confusion. There is only one thing that I would like to be in touch with, and that is the Negro Project of the South, which, if the execution of the details remain in Miss Rose's hands, my suggestions will not be confusing because she knows the way my mind works. Miss Rose sent me a copy of your letter of December the 5th, and I note that you doubt it worthwhile to employ a full-time Negro physician. It seems to me, from my experience, where I have been in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas, that while the colored Negroes have great respect for white doctors, they can get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table, which means their ignorance, superstitions, and doubts. They do not do this with the white people. And if we can train the Negro doctor at the clinic, he can go among them with enthusiasm and with knowledge, which I believe will have far-reaching results among the colored people. His work, in my opinion, should be entirely with the Negro profession and the nurses, hospital, social workers, as well as the county's white doctors. His success will depend upon his personality and his training by us. The minister's work is also important, and also he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideals and the goal that we hope to reach. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. I agree with you that Miss Rose has done a remarkable job in thinking through and planning the project, but she has worked on it for some time. As soon as I knew there was the possibility of getting any money, I put her at work drafting the plan for Mr. Lackner. She is excellent at just such a job. She hangs on to details, weaves and correlates them into the design. I shall never cease to have the utmost admiration and regard for her ability. And so far, I have not seen anyone in the Federation who could take her place. I am constantly delighted at the thought that you are getting better, and now we must pray for Mrs. Time, who is seriously ill at the doctor's hospital in New York. My regards to your Sarah and to yourself. Sincerely yours, Margaret Sanger. To Dr. C.J. Gamble of Procter & Gamble, Cincinnati Business, on December the 10th, 1939. A project developed to exterminate the Negroes. Well, she says exterminate the Negro population in the South.
So she's reading a letter that the woman wrote a while back. However, you're still going to catch a lot of some of your officials who was supporting Martin King, and you're going to see a lot of people still supporting in what his belief is. But you can see that this woman was trying to exterminate him, and who was helping her was Martin. And people still will refuse to see that Martin was doing this. For some reason, we come to be so ignorant to the fact that even one of our own will do it. But you can go to the Maccabees. You can see where for money, our own people will do in our own people. And for some reason, it's happening right in front of you again. And right now, you have people, they so engulfed into this world today that now you have women actually fighting for something which this lady put forward to help exterminate the black race. And now they fighting to make sure they still have access to it. That shows you that ignorance can't teach ignorance. That's the whole problem with everything. So I'm going to end up cutting that part out because I'm going to put it by itself, and I want people to see that by itself, because that's the problem with all things. So we're going to go back to, we're going to look at this word, Samech. Samech. We want to understand it. We want to get a hold to it. We want to make sure we understand spiritually what it's talking about, because that's the point of why we're trying to understand the Hebrew words, because many words was taught and many things was taught to us. And as they bring these things forth to us, they have brought these things and it was 100% wrong. We have sat in churches, we have sat and listened to these men telling you what is true and it's not true. They telling you what they was taught. They telling you what they was 100% taught. And today, as we bring these things forth, people have a problem. And the same thing, people have a huge problem with KJBU. Really, it's really weird to where they become with these problems with KJBU. They have a problem with Lost Sheep of Israel. They have a problem with the elders. They have a problem with the deacons. They have a problem with us all. But I want you to always remember, when people sit there and tell you, don't use, or we pushing something on devices, and you shouldn't use them, but they use them. But always remember some certain things that I told all people to always make sure you remember. Many people will come here at King James Bible University, Lost Sheep of Israel. They'll learn under different elders and different things. And once they feel they got enough information to where they believe that they know what the truth is. And you're supposed to study, and you're going to study until you go back to the ground. The Bible tells you that in Genesis chapter 3. But they feel they have enough, and then they want that to leave to where now when you want so-called what they want to say the truth, they want you to come to them. Because they don't want you to actually have access. It's like crabs in a bucket. So always keep in mind, what people do. Same as King, same as many other people. This is what they do. And we come to this in Samech. And I want to share with you what it is. We're going to go through it. We're going to look at it exactly how we are to construct this. And it tells you, and I'm going to show you what it actually means in 1 second. But actually, I thought I had that highlighter on. So he starts off. Samech starts off. He tells you clearly, I hate vain thoughts, but we got to remember how this is saying it. In this Bible here, vain is actually not there. Vain is actually italicized. So it's not really there, but it's there for clarification. And you'll see why they even put it there for clarification. As we go through the scriptures, you'll know why they did it. But it's telling us there, because all it's saying, I hate thoughts. That's what it actually says, but he's telling you clearly, I hate vain thoughts. We're going to see why. And then he says, but thy law do I love. Thy law do I love. So we know now that translators, and if you look in your own King James Bible, you'll see vain is italicized, it's slanted. That's letting you know it was added, but it was added for clarification. And with that, it gives the studier the idea on what the Spirit of God hates. That's what it's doing. It's giving you the thought of what the Spirit of God hates. And he hates vain. Vain is talking about empty, false things of a liar. Thoughts and the words alike of a liar. That's what it does. That's what this is talking about. We'll look at this and start digging into it to really understand where all this is coming from. We'll see part of it in Proverbs chapter 12, and we're going to pick it up at verse 11 and get some of the understanding. It says, he that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread. He that tilleth his land with bread shall be satisfied with bread. But he that followeth vain persons, is void of understanding. You see how he's putting both together? We want to understand how this is actually working. Because you have people who till their own land, and many people do this. Many people do this very thing. They're going to follow vain things. They're going to follow vain people. They're going to follow vain persons. And they're going to do it automatically. And these vain people going to tell them and sell them this pie in the sky thing. That's what they're going to do. They're going to sell them this pie in the sky, and people are going to believe it. These are what they're called in today's time. Well, in the old time, they call them snake oil salesmen. They'll sell you in these buildings. They sell them to you in other places. They'll sell you once saved, always saved. They sell it to you. In fact, you look at this, and we'll go over to Matthew chapter 24, and we'll see this in verse 13. Christ is saying this out of his own mouth. He says, but he that shall endure unto the end. That means until you're dead. The same shall be saved, but you have to be doing something, but you have to endure to the end. Meaning you have to suffer that cross. You got to suffer your own cross. But people teach you the pie in the sky, the vain thing. And the reason why they're going to teach you the vain things, because with the vain things that they're going to teach you, is they're going to sit there and say, Yahweh, Jesus died for all your sins of the world. And now you don't have to do nothing but just believe that he died for you. And you're good. That's craziness. That's 100% craziness. Now they benefiting on a death. And you look at that a little bit closer. We're going to see a little bit closer in Matthew chapter 10. And we're going to see this in verse 38. You're going to see something that Yahweh or Jesus, whatever name you choose to use, watch what he says here. And he's making himself really clear here. He says in Matthew 10:38, it says, including he that taketh not his cross. So if you choosing not to take up your own cross, if you choose and you say, well, I'm not going to take up the cross, I'm just going to believe on Jesus. You with me? I'm just going to believe on him. But he's telling you out of his own mouth. He said, if you don't take up your own cross, he said, he that taketh not his cross and follow after me, meaning you're going to have to follow in his footsteps. You got to follow in. Actually, we're going to tell you what, it's not part of it, but I want to put it there just so I want to make sure we get it. And we're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. And this is not part of it, but you can use it in there because it's part of the teaching now. But I just want you to understand what this is what Peter's saying. And then I will show you what the verse I want to show you. It says in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 20, it says, for hereunto ye are called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow in his steps. Meaning the same thing over here. And if you're not willing to take up that cross, he's telling you right up there, and follow after me, is not worthy of me. Is not worthy of me. You see what's happening. Then you're not worthy of me. In fact, he goes on more when we go over here to Luke. I'm going to show you something in Luke. He's going to see, he's going to repeat the same thing, but say it a little bit differently. He's going to say it a little bit differently. And we're going to find this over in Luke chapter 14, but we want to look at this and we're going to see what was written over here in verse 27, which is more clear for us. He says, and whosoever do not bear his cross, if you're not willing to bear your cross, not just sitting there, I believe on Jesus, I believe on Jesus. No, that's making no sense. He said, if you're not willing to bear his own cross and come after me, you see how it's come after me, cannot be my disciple, then he don't know you. He don't know you. Because people, they void the understanding of Scripture. Because when people teach this doctrine is once saved, always saved. They teach the doctrine of hey, all you got to do is believe that he lived and died on the cross, so you're good. Then you believe that, you believe a vain thought that makes no sense. All you have to do is walk around and once saved, you're always saved. That makes no sense. And what they do with that, they're going to do that because they're going to make sure that you're assembling yourself in a building. In a building, this is where they're going to tell you that. This is where you're going to learn it. They'll tell you, to assemble in the building, and then they're going to tell you these things. And Christ telling you the entire time what's going on. And as we've been going through the teachings these past weeks, we've been looking at that and taking a closer look at it and start dissecting it to where we can really put our eyes on it. In Matthew 24:23, it's talking about those where people are going to tell you, come to the building, come over here to this church of that, church of this, or church of Christ, church of holiness, church of tabernacle, whatever it is. And he says, then if any man shall say unto you, man, M-A-N, it's talking about a man or woman, anyone say to you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. It's a vain lie. It's a 100% vain lie. But we sit there and we have been fooled. And a lot of it is our own fault. He tells us in the same in Luke chapter 17, and we'll look at this in verse 21. It says, neither shall they say, lo here or lo there. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. It's within you. So why are we holding on to vain, empty thoughts, vain, empty words? And he's telling us Christ is within you. The kingdom is in you. But we're looking everywhere where we shouldn't be, and we're going to these places. And we have many people going to continue to go. This is where it just comes down to it, to where, just like I said, many people is not going. That's why I don't sit there and I don't say certain things to these lessons. But we see in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 24, it says, for Christ is not entered into holy places made with hands, which are figures of the truth. Because the kingdom of God is in people, and people trying to make buildings and saying God is in there, and God is in people. This is what we do. We can't help ourselves. So we're the temple. In fact, the scriptures tells us this. We're the temple. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. One that all of us use. And you'll see it here. We already seen what he said. It says, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? Don't we don't know this? We haven't figured this out yet? No, lo, Christ is here. Lo, Christ is there. So why are we going there? No, Christ is here. No, Christ is there. No, Christ is here. So now you're going somewhere, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. But now you're going to try to chase some vain thing. I want you to really personally think about that. You're supposed to have Christ in you, but they getting you to go to a building where Christ is not there. He's telling you, Christ is not entered into holy places made with hands. Same people, there's no scripture. And I said this, I know I said it last week. There's not one piece of scripture that says God loves the sinner and hates the sin. It's nowhere. Nowhere. That's a vain, empty saying from a thought from a man. They'll tell you, people tell you God don't hate people. God don't hate you. He loves you, but he hates the sin. And all you have to do is ask him, where's the verse that says that? They'll never show it to you. They'll talk to you about it, but they'll never, ever show it to you. I challenge you to think on this, on what I'm going to show you. I challenge you to just think on this. And many people have a problem with this, because the same thought that I want you to see on Malachi chapter 1, we're going to start at verse 2. And he says this about that. He says, I have loved you, saith the Lord, saith the Spirit of God. Yet ye say, so we say, wherein hast thou loved us? See, one of our biggest problems is when things start going not the way that we feel it should go, we feel God don't love us. When we sitting there trying to go a certain way, we trying to do a certain thing, we trying to look at things a certain way, or we go do something that we shouldn't have been doing, and then as soon as something don't go our way, all of a sudden, well, God did this. So he said, I loved you. I promised you. He said, where have you promised us? And he goes on more. Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Said the Spirit of God. Was not Jacob and Esau brothers? They was twins. He said, "Yet I love Jacob." But I love Jacob. And when you look at it, when you want to see it in the spiritual realm of this, we talking about that was not Esau Jacob's brother, his equal. Was not they equal in man and everything else? It's telling you this right here. It's not they equal, but even though they equal, one chose to go one direction, the other chose to go another direction. That's the point of that. Was not he his brother? They was equal. Equal. He goes on more. He says this. And since they went different directions, then you see why he's saying what he's saying. Now we get what he's talking about. He says, I hated Esau, and I hated Esau. And I laid his mountains in his heritage ways for dragons in the wilderness. So we want to understand what that is saying all the time. Again, why I have an issue with Martin, because Martin said, out of a mountain of despair, something that forsakes you, which he's talking about God, out come a stone of hope. He said, even though he came from God, you hope in me, which he's a fool. He's a dead fool now. But the thing is, when you talk about a mountain, you're talking about a kingdom. You're talking about kingdom, you're talking about refuges. These are places of refuge. The mountain. That's why he always tell you to run to the mountain. That's why he tells you to do these things. And what did Esau do with this? Because he hated Esau for a reason. Because Esau sold his birthright, meaning he made merchandise of the birthright. He did it. We can go read it. It's recorded. It's on record. Many of us make merchandise of that. Many of us do that. And that's why I say we never can sit there and talk about Esau and never look at ourselves. Don't sit there and throw rocks at somebody else and you not ever looking at yourself. People are so caught up in flesh. They'll sit there and judge people according to the flesh and never looking at their flesh, and all flesh is sinful. All flesh. And all flesh have fallen short to the glory of God, but they think that they're better than someone else. That's crazy. In Matthew chapter 25, in verse 25, it says, including I was afraid and went and hid thy talent in the earth. That's what Esau did. Not Esau just did it. A lot of people did it because it's talking about he hid his talent. What he did, he was hiding it's a sin. He hid that. It was a thought. He hid it. And when he hid, we talking about when you're looking at hid, this hid here, it's telling you it's concealed. It was abandoned. Hid it in the earth. These are what we do. These are things we do. We do these things. We'll take our talent, our thoughts, our sin, we'll hide them, thinking we can hide them from God. And God telling us right up front, I hate this stuff. I hate this stuff. Because we will do vain work. We talk about how much we love God, but we're giving him lip service when we're doing it. We do lip service when we do this stuff. And then we'll hide things, just like Esau. Just like Esau. We'll hide it. We look at this and the Lord says this. He says things when we look at verse 26. We want to understand all this together. Oh, shoot. I don't know why it like to do that. And I don't know why it does that. So we want to look at this all together. We're going to look at verse 26. His Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked, including slothful servant. You're slothful. Thou knowest that I reap where I've sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. We want to understand that also. We want to understand actually all this together. Actually, I want to tell you what, better yet, to get a lot of this, I want to show you something. And we're going to go to Revelation 16, and we're going to look at verse 21, and we're going to work out something, because I believe this will help us together. And I'm going to show you how this actually works. It says, "And there fall upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight." I want you to pay attention about the weight of a talent, of a sin, of a thought, is weighed. The same way we'll put stuff on a scale in this way, God's telling you the same way. He's telling you he put that talent, that thought, and that sin, he put that on the way. He says, including men. You see, he clarifying it. It's a colon. It's not a semicolon. It's a colon. It says, including men blaspheme. They cursed and despised God. They cursed and despised God because of the plague of the hail. Are we really seeing this? But it's here in Scripture. It says, "For the plague thereof were exceedingly great." So why are we going to sit there and put it on God? He already told you what he hated. He told us exactly what he hated. Let me show you something. Let me look at this a little bit closer. Let's take this a little bit closer. It said, "His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knowest that I reap where I've sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed." And I want to show you what this actually means. We're going to get into a couple of things, so we'll find out what it means. Because as I said, I promised myself to where I can't take stuff for granted anymore. Meaning, a lot of things that's mainly just spoken in Paleo Hebrew, I mainly took it for granted because I thought through precepts people will still start understanding it. But the main thing is, I took that for granted. I thought that. And whose fault is that? That's mine. It's not yours. That's my fault. So I don't put it on nobody. And so we need to make sure that all of us is on the same page. Make sure that we're equal as we go through the scriptures. So that's what I'm doing. And when you look at this, and he's talking about he's a slothful servant, which I'm pretty sure they're going to put that in there, what a slothful is, because I know they have it. But we see right here, he says, "Knoweth that I reap where I sowed not." So we need to understand what some of these things mean. We need to understand what they mean. In reap, we want to understand this one here. Reap. We just want to get this to where we can be on the same page. That's talking about inner judgment, or that's talking about and being a minister. That's what they're saying. That's why he's saying, "Knoweth that thou inner judgment." He start doing doctrines and teachings. See, he be a minister. He's a servant. He said, "I didn't come to be ministered to. I come to minister." That's why he says that. But the same thing, he said, "But I do this." He says, "Where I sowed not," meaning where he ministered or taught. That's what he's telling you. He said, "You know that I am a servant. I'm entered into judgment where I'm not ministered or taught." That's all he's telling you. And he says, "And I gathered where I have not strawed," where he's not strawed. So strawed is telling you exactly what he's doing now, but I can't take it upon people, so I tell you what it is. But he said, "Where I have not fed." You have a couple other words to it, but one of the main ones, the foundation, what you need to understand is fed. He said, so he gathered where he have not fed, because he having other people feeding them. Other people is feeding them. Actually, you want to tell you what? I want to show you an example. We use this one. Just thought about it. But let's use this. We're going to use Matthew 21. Matthew 21. And we're going to look at verse 8. Watch what happens here. And hopefully we get it. It says, including, it was a very great multitude spread their garments in the way. Others cut down branches from the trees and strawed them in the way. See, it don't make sense because people don't know what straw mean. But he's telling you, he cut down the branches from the trees and fed them in the way. That's all he was saying. So it's not crazy. But now we know what it means. We know what it means. So they was fed in the way. And the same thing is that we would not have to owe anyone to where we being in these places, to where we don't have to owe anyone some talents, these evil thoughts and these sinful ways. That's what he's doing. So he do this way. He do this a whole nother way. And we still have to watch what he hates, because he hates these vain thoughts. And people do these vain thoughts in these vain ways. As I told you earlier, they do them in buildings. And we look at those, and people still continue, no matter what. People going to continue and believe that the building is the place to go, and it's not the truth. It's nowhere close to the truth, but they'll tell you, oh no, that's where you go. That's where you go to do it. That's where you go learn. That's where you go learn. No, it's not. That's why he's telling you right here. He says, thou hast built thy high place at every headway, at every head of the way. Thou hast made thy beauty, which is his law. Right here, but thy law I do love. And he made that beauty to be abhorred in the buildings. And it's open thy feet to everyone that passes by, to multiply their whoredom. This is what people do. This is what we do. We do it like clockwork. We go in there and we don't think nothing about it. We go in there and think nothing absolutely about it. I'll show you another part where he gets into this even more when we look at verse 14. Because he started digging into it more. It says, thou art, which is art is italicized also. Art is italicized. It's not just in there. It was added. It was added for clarification, because thou art is perfection and beauty, which is still talking about his law. Thou art, thou perfection, thy beauty, my hidden place in my shield. That's what he said. That's why he's saying it that way. That's which is his law. So his law is his hiding place. That's his beauty. That's his perfection. Or our hiding place. They should be our hiding place also. Those are protection. And as I said, and we see right here where he's talking about hope. We just went through this. Our hope, our desired expectation is in what? In thy word. In thy word. Same as Deacon Micah. He taught on yesterday about this one person who sent me an email and him an email. And they wanted to sit there and say, oh no, those words don't mean what he's saying they mean. But the same thing is, you deal with people who don't actually understand Hebrew, so they do everything, but the same people saying they're going to still watch the channel. Why? Channel goes up and down. Find one. But when you have people who want to still get the understanding, but then they want to teach other people, but then they want, where people is not there, now they can sit there and push it all there. I tell you what, just think about this. Some people there sit there, and you can do it yes or no as we get ready to move forward. But if just no. And this is real prevalent, and it's more prevalent in our culture than it's in any other culture. Most people learn how to earn $1 a day. But you teach one of our people how to earn that same dollar per day. Now, when he gets to his friend, he gets to a family member, he said, hey, I'm going to show you how to make 75 cents every day. You see that change? I'm going to show you how to make 75 cents every day. Because he's going to want a quarter. And then as he started doing it, he's going to tell somebody else, hey, the new guy who's making 75, he said, hey, I'm going to show you how to make 50 cents a day So he getting a quarter, the other guy getting a quarter. The guy thinking it's honest is getting 50 cents, but you have people being shady, taking off the top. That's what that person was doing. That person don't want you to use no tools to get the truth. They don't want you to get not one tool to get the truth. And they using the same tools that we use. And the main thing is they saying no. They teaching not the truth. And that's not true. That's why we do what we do. And this is why we're so messed up. Because once we know what truth is, and then what they want to do is eliminate where they're getting truth at, and they want to be able to get the truth because they don't want other people to know what the truth is. So they can get truth, but then when you want truth, you got to go to them. It's crazy. And our hope has to be in thy word. And the same thing as I tell anybody, and I was really appreciative, and people, I get it, and as we go through it, as we continue to move forward, I get it, I understand it. When people sit there, they say, hey, I got one of the elders, he tell me all the time. I appreciate it, but the same thing as I say, I'm just me. But the thing is when you find this channel, KJBU, and you see it's tied to other channels of KJBU to where you can get different flavors to understand the truth. And I get where you sit there, thank you, we want to thank you, want to thank you, want to thank you. It's nothing I'm doing this special. It's glorifying God, I'm allowing God to use my body to show you what the truth is. But I'm not the one to be glorified. They don't glorify but no one should ever glorify me. Anytime. Glorify God. You thank God that God led you to this channel. You thank God that he showed you what the truth is. You thank God for those things. I'm just, I tell you what, have you ever drunk some water and thanked the cup? Or you thank the person who gave you the cup? You don't thank the person who gave you the cup. Okay, God giving you the cup. I'm just the cup. You with me? I'm just a vessel. And he's pouring his water in this vessel, and I'm just being the cup. So there's no reason to thank me. You thank him. So don't thank me. I appreciate it. I get when people do it, but there's no reason to, I'm just a cup. That's why I tell people all the time, I'm not talking about the man that's, look, just like I say, he look good and look bad to everybody. But that's why I tell people, just look at me as Flavor Flav, because Flavor Flav, he wore all those clocks. He had on a bunch of big old clocks on this. I say, I just tell you what time it is. That's all I do. I'm just telling you what time it is. So I should never be glorified in those ways. But the best thing to do to always be the main thing is just be who you are and just let God use you. And I can show you what the truth is. But then once you get it, you get something, oh man, thank you, Elder Johnson. No, I'm not the one you think. It's God. It's nothing that I'm telling you that I'm not taking from God. Everything I'm telling you, I done took from God. I understand what he's shown me, and I get it. I understand it. So now I can tell you in different ways to where I can try to help you get it. I try to put it where the ghost can get it. So I do that. But do you glorify me for it? Do you thank me for it? Don't thank me for it, because it's not a big deal. When you said, I thank God that I was able to get over here and the Lord fed me. I get it. I get it. Because you should be glorifying God, not me. But I get it. But the main thing is glorify God. That's why a preacher, an elder, whatever, that's why they shouldn't get paid. Because we're not doing the thing for him to make sure we get the money from you. He's paying us. So there's no reason for you to pay me, because I'm not doing anything. Well, he's just using my body, but technically I'm not doing anything. It's him doing the work. So since he's doing the work, then he's the one you need to glorify. Remember, I'm just the cup. So if I'm the cup and you glorifying the cup, then you need to thank the cup every time you drink some water. You thank you, cup. Now you see how stupid that is. Cup, ooh, cup, that was so good, cup. You see, now you see the stupidity there. So that's how that works. Because your hope got to be in that, in what the word is. And the word is just the message that was brought to you. And the message that was brought to you was his scriptures. His scriptures was brought to you. And to help you with that, let's look at something. Let's look at this in Numbers. Let's look at this in Numbers and pull a little bit more closer. In Numbers chapter 23, verse 19. Watch how clear he's going to make this. And it's saying God is not a man that he should lie. So he's telling you. He said, hey, that cup, let's look at me as the cup. Let's look at me as the cup. He says, God is not a cup. He's not me that he should lie. This cup will do you in. Look at it that way. Because I'm a man. I'm a cup. So he had to put stuff in the cup. But he's telling you, I'm not a man that I will do that. I'm not a cup. I'm the one pour the water in the cup. That's what he's telling you right there. I'm the one put the water in the cup. That's me. He said, and I ain't gonna lie. He said, neither the servant of man that he should repent, that he need to remember. Have I said and shall not he do it? Have he spoken and shall not make it good? Yeah. You want some water? He'll make sure you get the water. You want some water from me? I might say, please, dude, who you think I am? Who you think I am? You think I'm your servant? Please, bro, I ain't your. No, I'm your servant. Who you think I am? You gonna get lip from me? That's the point. That's the point of this. The Spirit of God is not a man, but he promises something to do. So he promises if you obey his voice, his word, his message, which contained within it, it's in the cup. Then you can be this peculiar treasure unto him above all people. Jehovah said those things. He said those things. He made those things 100% clear for us to understand it. You see other things that, Elder Jenkins, he uses it on the Sabbath meeting. He uses it every time we turn around. You see he's going to run this like clockwork. Runs it like clockwork. And you see what it says here, and you see if he doing it, because you can change the cup. You can change the cup. But it's telling you right here in Psalms 89, verse 34, it says, my covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone from my lips. I'm not changing nothing. You got look at all the different cups. You got a cup in North Carolina. You got a cup in Georgia. You got a cup in OKC. You got a cup in St. Louis. You got 2 cups. No, you got 3 cups down here in California. You got a cup in San Antonio. Call cups. Just look at it, it's cups. We just all cups. I guarantee you, ain't none of the cups gonna sit there and complain. But what he does, he pours his knowledge in there, then you drink of that cup. That's all we've been used for. All we've been used for. And then who gonna tip a cup? who gonna tip a cup? You want to tip a cup? That makes no sense now. Now you gonna tip a cup? A cup that was so good. Here's $20 cup for that. Now you see how crazy that is. But it's telling you his covenant will he not break nor alter the thing that is gone from his lips. So you need to keep his covenant. And God will keep his promise to you, and he will not alter it. Everything that God of Israel have promised, he will fulfill them even to the smallest letter of the T letter. He's going to fulfill it. He tells you all these things. Actually, we're gonna tell you what. We gonna just like I said, we gonna all be on the same page. Let's be all on the same page. Cause same thing, like I said, it makes me look like a smart guy. People hear me say it in the back, and I know someone probably sitting there like, man, this guy, he's really good with precepts and this, but this is all God. I have nothing to do with it. I like to take credit for it. I can't. It's not me. It says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 18, it says, verily I say unto you, till heaven, including the earth, shall pass, not one jot or one tittle shall no wise, not one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the law until all be fulfilled. But the smallest, the jot is the smallest. People sit there and tell you different things, but jot is just telling you smallest. Now, one of the smallest things of this law is going to change, and then one tittle, not one stroke or one letter. That's all this is saying. Should no wise pass for the law to all be fulfilled. In what the Spirit of God has written, it was written by his prophet that we study to see what's inspected. And then as we inspect it, we can see the things that's in the hope. That's why it's telling you the hope in our word. So now we see what this hope is as we hear in the word, and then we have the desire to where we can seek what our expectations should be as we're going through it. That's what's happening. This is what's happening. And this is why he tells us more so what's going on. So when we hope in his word, we know what we want. We know once you read it, you know what the expectations are. We have to keep the word of God. We have to keep his word. We keep his word, we'll be a peculiar treasure unto him above all people. But he hates vain thoughts. He hates these vain things. So we don't need to be listening to people who's giving you these vain thoughts, these vain things. Makes no sense. That's what he's telling you. Samech. Don't get caught up into it. In fact, when you drop down here to verse 15, it's telling us, depart from me, ye evildoers. We want evildoers to depart from us. Evildoers. We need them to depart from us. We don't want them around us. And the problem with that is telling us more. It says, I will keep the commandments of my God. Because we have the desire, we have the hope, we want what's expected. We want what our expectations are because we're reading it in here. We're reading it in here. But evildoers is one who will commit sin, the one who will do unrighteousness. Evildoers. Depart from me. We don't want evildoers around us. Having evil thoughts in the evildoer will, and you see how I said evil doer. They had a thought and then they even commit them because they evil doers. You can't, some people might have missed it. Thought I was trying to tell a good joke, but that's actually true. But it's evil doers. We having the evil thought and then we do them. That's what we're doing. Evil doers. And this is what they'll do to commit sin. In fact, I'm gonna show you an example of one guy. One guy. I want you to see this guy, to understand where we're coming from. We're gonna see this in Genesis chapter 4. We want to look at the example of verse 8 because Cain was an evil doer. He was an evil doer. And you see this in Genesis chapter 4, verse 8. It says, including Cain talked with Abel, his brother, his equal. He was an equal to him. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against his brother Abel and he slew him, killed him. He was an evildoer. He committed sin, committed wickedness. Not only that, God was not even his hiding place. He was hiding in the gardens. God spake and asked him, where's Abel, your brother? And what did he say? I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my equal's keeper? Did Cain keep the words of God or did he try to hide them? And you got to remember what God even told him before when Cain was upset about this. Because he told Cain before, if you do it well, he would be accepted. But Cain, this is us. what we do. This is what we do. And we still look, and we're going to get caught up in the line, but we see the hope, the desire, and the expectations, but we think we can hide things. We think we can hide other things and still get away with it. And it's just not there. It's not there. So as we continually, and we continue to go the way we need to do it, the way we need to see things, the way we need to hold on to all things, as he's telling us, Samech. He's telling you up front I hate this stuff. I hate this kind of stuff. And we ask him for things. We ask this. Uphold me according to thy word. Uphold me according to thy word. That's pretty deep. We're gonna get into that uphold. We're gonna dig into that in a second. But he's saying, uphold me according to thy word, that I may live, and let me not be ashamed for my hope. Let me not be ashamed for my hope. That's a teaching, right? Just that one verse. That's a teaching. That one verse. Uphold me according to thy word, that I may live, and let me not be ashamed of my hope. That's a full-blown teaching. I can literally teach on that for about 2 hours. Well, you already know I'm long-winded. People feel, he been talking for 15 hours. Yeah, I can go a long time on that right there. Because it's uphold him according to his word, according to his message. Because keeping the vows of God is our most important thing. Keeping the vows of God is our most important thing. And that's why we tell him we want to live to his word. We want to live according to his word and understand what he's talking about with his word. And we see this here. We've been all around this. He's telling us, Exodus chapter 19, verse 5. It says, now for that reason, if you obey my voice, indeed in works, and keep my covenant, then you should be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. Then this will happen. And we sitting there saying, okay, uphold me then. You see how but this is somebody who's really seeking God. Okay, God is sitting there saying, okay, I'm gonna tell you something. Let's look at it this way. We're gonna I tell you what. Let's do something. Let's do something. We're gonna go through some scriptures, but we're gonna set our own selves up. We're gonna be part boo-boo, but we're gonna catch ourselves. We're gonna get caught up. But I want you to understand. Now, let's say we all said that. God said, now therefore, if you obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you should be a peculiar. Let's say all of us was there when he said this. All of us was there. Now let's say our forefathers, we was there. So now, let's say now we say. See, and then it said, and ye say. So we said, uphold me according to thy word. Then you uphold me according to your word then. Everybody agree? Do everybody agree? I'm going to show you how we're going to get caught up. I'm going to show you how we're going to get caught up, because I'm going to show you how well God is and how good God actually really is. Because he don't want nobody to perish. But we just going to get caught. Well, watch how we get caught up. Because we telling God straight up front, okay, God, you want us to be a peculiar treasure unto you. Okay, we get that, God. Okay, so I need you to uphold me. We're going to find out what hold mean. So we want to make sure we do this. And we want to keep the heart of God. We want to obey his voice, keep his covenant, to where we can be this peculiar treasure unto God. Because he's telling us this. So we said, okay, cool. We cool with that, God, but I need you to uphold us. Now, we want to look at something. We want to go to Genesis. Now, and I'm going to show you who also did this. I want to show you one who did this. And then we're going to go to the main part, because I want to make sure that we not doing nothing crazy out of the way. I want to go through this, and then we will never, ever trip and think that he's doing something that's going another way. So we want to look at this. We're going to go to Genesis and we're going to look at this in 28 and we're going to look at verse 20. We're going to look at this in verse 20. And we'll see people, all we need is a yes, all we need is yeses or no's. And it's telling us this right here. In Jacob, one of our forefathers. So we want to follow what Jacob did. Let's watch what Jacob did. It says, and Jacob vowed a vow. He vowed a vow, saying, providing God be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, including will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on. You kind of see how this is going? Watch this. He's telling you again. He's going on more. It says, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then. See, you see how he's saying, then, only then shall the Spirit of God be my God. Because you see, Jacob really thought out his stuff when he would say something. Because he said then, but God had to do all this stuff that he said. And God's saying, now you have to obey my voice, keep my covenant for you to be a peculiar treasure unto me. And we see David over here asking, uphold me according to thy word. We see Jacob actually did it. He actually saying it. So we need to know what uphold means. Uphold is telling us the same thing what Jacob understood. Uphold is to sustain, to help me. That's what hold means. Uphold me, sustain me, help me, but sustain me, and you're going to give me bread to eat, raiment to put on, and show me the way. You got to sustain me then. If you want me to be identical, to follow this to the letter, then I need you to hook me up. That's what we do. So now we putting it back on God. Everybody with me? Now we putting everything back on God. Okay, God, you want us to be this peculiar treasure? Okay, I'm asking you to uphold us. I'm asking you to do this. Now, okay, you want us to do it, then you do this. You do this, then I can do it. But other than that, I can't do it. So you have to do it. I said, okay, no problem. So he sent Yahushai. And Yahushai said something to us. He said something to us. We'll find that tucked away. It's actually in there twice, but we'll find it tucked away right there in John chapter 14, verse 13. He says, including whosoever shall ask in my name, ask in my way, that I will do it, that the Father may be glorified in the servant. What do that mean? If you ask, God have to do it. If you ask and you sincere, God have to do it. He cannot do that. He have to do it. Now, that's why when people sit there and say, well, God is with me, but you still do everything wrong. Okay, because you really didn't have God with you. Because if you saying God is going to be with you and you asking this in all sincerity, God is going to make sure, God, okay, he says, you see right here, he says it again. He says, if you should ask anything in my way, I do it, providing you keep my commandments. If you love me, keep my commandments. We got caught up. We sit, I'm telling you, we sitting there saying, okay, Lord, uphold me, sustain me. And he's sitting there saying, okay, anything you ask in my name, I'm going to do it. Anything you ask in my way, I'm going to do it. I got to do it. I have to do this. So we get caught up. This is part of what our issue is. So we can't get around it. We'll find also more on this when we look at Matthew chapter 22, picking it up at verse 14. This is why this is actually there. In Matthew 22, verse 14, it says, for many are called, but few are chosen. Only a few are chosen. Because only certain people, when you asking, some people just do lip service. Everybody's not doing really what they really supposed to do. They doing more of a lip service. But he's saying, but if you serious, he have to do it. He's commanded himself to do that. Because if anything you ask him my name, I will do it. He's commanding himself. If you ask, you got it. I can't do that. You got it. And we want the desired hope on what it is. Because it's saying, see, we should not be ashamed of this hope. Because we want a desired outcome. We have a desired outcome that we're looking for. Everybody follow me. I want to make sure that we all getting what's being said here. Because we have a desired hope. We have a desired outcome. And the desired outcome is the main thing on what people think is crazy, but it's not crazy. What people tell you is crazy, but it's not crazy. You'll find this over here in Acts chapter 26. And you'll see what our desired hope is. Our desired expectation is. And people will sit there and they dislike you for it. Watch this. It says in Acts 26 verse 8, it says, why should it be thought an incredible thought a thing incredible with you that God should raise the dead? That's our desired expectation from God. We're going to do what you told us to do. We're going to do these things. But as we do them, you saying you're going to raise the dead. You saying the flesh going to go back somewhere else and you're going to raise the dead. It's right there. Why should that be a hard thing? You said your covenant will you not break, nor to the thing that's gone from your lips. You saying, hey, God, you're not a liar. You have shown all through your word that you'll do these things. So if I do my part, I know you want your part. But people are going to give you, and people are going to think things, this is impossible. So many people are going to think that you're crazy. Many people are going to think that you're weird. Many people are going to think many things against you because you holding on to not what Christians say. Christians, don't even get me started with them. Don't even get me started with them. But this thing is why we got to look at this. And that's why we said it shouldn't be an incredible thing. But this is what our hope is in. We want the desired outcome as that right there. We want to be raised from the dead. We want to be raised from the dead. That's the point of that. And we see this in verse 12 in Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4. It says, beloved, think not it strange concerning fiery trials, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. All because we walking around saying that we're going to be raised in the last days. All because we're going to be raised in the last days. That's all we saying. That's all we saying. God going to raise us in the last days. So we think it's, okay, people say, no, dude, you crazy. God, you done lost your mind. So you're going to go through these strange things, these fiery type trials. You're going to hit them. In fact, and he's telling you, so I want you to keep this in mind. Right past the colon, it says, and let me not be ashamed of my hope, of my expected outcome. What is my expected outcome? So we shouldn't be ashamed of our expected outcome. Because our expected outcome is he's raising us from the dead. We'll live forever. Don't be ashamed of that. That's what we're expecting. That's what our hope is in. So if that's the truth, and we know that's the truth because it's coming from God, he's not a liar. And we know he's not a liar because we've seen things he's done. And you're going to go through some fiery trials on this. Let's look at it a little bit more here. Verse 13. It says, but rejoice as much as ye are partakers of Christ's suffering. You're going to be partakers of this. that when the glory shall be revealed, the glory is going to be revealed, as it's telling us, and ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. With exceeding joy. See, because we're going to suffer for certain things, because everybody don't believe this. Everybody is not going to believe what we doing here. You see, this also was recorded over in John chapter 1, looking at verse 11, and it's recorded even there. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. Everybody's not going to believe this. Everybody is not going to hold on to this. You follow me? Everybody is not going to hold on to this at all. So when he came to his own believed him not. And it says more in verse 12. It says, but as many received him, he gave them power to become servants to God, even to them that believed on his way. But we have to hold on to his way. It's a lifestyle. It's not a religion. It's not a religion, but people teach you of a religion. We don't teach religion here. We teach you a lifestyle, the lifestyle of Christ. And this, as long as we keep this, as long as we keep that, and that we do with him according to his law, he can't change it. He can't alter it. That's the beautiful part. He can't alter anything. And the main part is, all we have to do is follow. We had a book. It's like we have the opponent's book. All we got to do is follow it, and we're good. And it's telling you, it says, and the Spirit of God commanded us to do all these statutes, to desire the Spirit of our God for our good always, that he may preserve us alive as it is today. He's going to raise us from the dead. We desire the ways of God. We desire God, that he can preserve us alive as it is this day. This day. Those are the beautiful things. And it tells us right here in verse 14 in 1 Peter chapter 4, it's telling us, providing ye be reapproached. Providing this happens, you be reapproached. You're going to be evil spoken of and all these things. But before we get into all that, it's I want to make sure we get this. So it's telling us that we be reapproached for the ways of Christ, the name of Christ, the ways of Christ. Happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory rested of God rested upon you, because you're going this way, but you're going to suffer some things. You're going to go through some fiery trials. I want you to keep that in mind. But it tells you more. It's colon right there. So you're going to clarify some things. He says, on their part, he is evil spoken of. So if he's resting in you, they're going to be talking about you, but they're really talking about Christ. Because Christ's resting on you. But they're going to talk about you. You're going to go through the trial because you is following Christ. Christ is in you. So you're the one going to go through the fiery trial. They thinking it's you, but there's really Christ. And Christ rests upon you. On their part, he's evil spoken of. See, that's why I said, on their part, he's evil spoken of. Happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory, including of God, rested upon you. And on their part, he, it's not saying you, he is evil spoken of. Not even talking about you. Don't have nothing to do with you. Everybody with me there? You see this, why he's saying it that way. It don't have anything to do with you. providing ye be reapproached for the ways of Christ, because you have let Christ, you presented your body as a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which was your reasonable service, and you're going to be reapproached for the ways of Christ that he's leading you. Happy are you. For the Spirit of glory and of God is rested upon you. You see what it's saying there. It's clear as day right here. But it's telling you even more so, on their part, he, not you, he is evil spoken of. But on your part, he's glorified. I'm telling you. It's a catch-22 because people are thinking they disrespecting you. They think they doing you in. They think they doing all these things about you. They're not doing you in. They doing it to God. It's crazy, ain't it? It's crazy. And these things are going to happen. And they're going to get you and they're going to hate you because you're going to live the ways of God. And I just want you to, and as I go forward, I'm going to just share some things with you. I want to share some personal things with you. And but it's going to be generalized. But if you just said, if it happened to you on this fiery trial, just say, that's too long. I was going to say, just put in 100. Just put in 100. Just put in 100 when I do this. Because these are some of the fiery trials that you can go through, that I'm going to tell you some of these personal things you can go through. Even today, you're going to be dealing with some worldly things. And, well, we haven't did the 100 yet. I don't know why you did 100. We're not doing it yet, but we all need to hold up a second because we ain't even said anything yet. But I just want to make sure we understand what's going on. So it's going to like celebrating, say like the 4th of July. It's a worldly thing. That's a worldly thing. See, that if people trip on you about that, then you got a problem there. Because those are worldly things. Those are things that God hates. People will sit there and dislike you because you won't celebrate Christmas. See, these are the ones you put 100 in. If it happened to you, then you know where I'm coming from. People dislike you because they'll sit there and say, "Oh, they call you happy birthday. Oh, won't they? Really? I appreciate it, but I really don't. I don't celebrate my birthday." You're gonna go through a fiery trial. What's wrong with you? Well, please. They sit there, having a zodiac sign. Think about that. They'll sit there and tell you about all these worldly things. You tell them, I don't go to a church building anymore. That's a heavy one. Oh boy, they gonna come at you like you crazy. I just had a cousin. She's just telling me yesterday. But God said something. God said something. But on your part, you got to remember, you're going to be glorified. But to them, you're going to be talked about. You're going to go through a fiery trial with them. But I want to show you something that God also spoke about. We'll find that, and we'll see in Amos chapter 5. We'll pick it up in verse 21. Because we got to keep this, uphold me according to thy word that I may live. So we want to live. Everybody wants to understand it. We want to live. So when you look at this, and we're going to go through a fiery trial because we're holding on to crazy stuff. But we're going to sit there and say, no, we're not holding on to nothing crazy. We're holding on to the ways of God. We got a lifestyle. And God's saying right here, right out of his own spirit, he says, I despise your. You see right here, your feast days. I despise your feast days. Your days of celebration. The days you celebrate, I hate them. He's telling you right here. The days that you celebrate, I hate them. I want you to think about that. But you will be, you're going to go through a fiery trial on that. On his part, you're glorified. On their part, you're going to be evil spoken of. And God is saying right up front, I hate your feast days, your celebration. I hate them. And people is going to sit there and put you through a fiery trial. They're going to put you through a fiery trial just on that alone. He said, I would not smell your solemn assemblies. I don't want to smell them. Meaning our odors stink. It comes to where it stinks. I won't smell your solemn assemblies. Meaning the same thing, people sit there and say, well, I'll tell you what, Saturday it's not good for me. It's not good for me, God. I'm going to switch it to Sunday. I'm going to switch this to Sunday. That's good for me. God said, I hate them. I despise your stuff. So since you do that, you're going to go through a fiery trial. Because people sitting there saying, all of us do it, why you don't do it? All of us do it, why you don't do it? Oh, you ain't going to do it? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Oh, can y'all help me do this more? Oh, no. 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 You don't do Christmas, do you? No? Okay, so why are you asking me? But I'm not talking about Christmas. I'm just asking, can you help me do this? Okay, I care less. That was Jesus' birthday. And you can't celebrate his birthday, then I can't help you. You disrespecting my God. Fiery trial. Fiery trial. He said, I will not smell your solemn assemblies. It says this, and when you're looking back at Peter, and it's telling us right up front, it says, providing you be reapproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye. Because you're going to keep the ways of Christ. You're going to keep it. You're going to hold on to it. But you're going to go through that trial. It says, for the spirit of glory and of God rested upon you. On their part, he, Christ, is evil spoken of. But on your part, he, Christ, is glorified. You can't celebrate Christmas? Oh, okay. I can't do nothing. You don't do Thanksgiving? Oh, I can't do nothing for you. And reapproach is just where you're going to be taunt, you're going to be disgraced, you're going to be evil spoken of all the time because of the lifestyle that you had chosen to take on. It's not a religion, it's a lifestyle that you had chosen to take on. Keep this in mind. And it tells us better right here in 117. It says, hold me up, including I shall be safe, and I will have respect unto thy statutes continually. So no matter what, I'm going to hold on to your laws, God. No matter what, I'm going to hold on to this. No matter what. They're going to reapproach you. But God, I know God, why they doing me like this? Because they're not doing it to you. They're doing it to me. They're not doing it to you. They're not doing anything to you. They're doing it to me. People think when they do things against somebody else, they think they're doing it against that person. But you're doing it against the spirit. They're doing that against the spirit. And we not sitting there thinking about the spirit that we trying not to do. That's what we got to keep in mind. They doing that, and I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. They say, oh, well, then you're not part of us. No, this is my lifestyle. You didn't say you didn't like them. You just said you don't celebrate it. But they take that personal. So he said, you have done this unto them. We were doing them. No, you were doing this unto me. I was in them. I was in them. They was having respect unto my statutes continually. They wasn't doing anything to you. They didn't do nothing to you. If you wanted to celebrate that day, you celebrate the day. They are not. If you want to go eat that stuff, you eat that stuff. They're not. If they saying they're not going to a building, you want to go to a building, they're not. They asked for something, I gave it to them. Anything they asked my way, I did it. They wanted me to uphold them. They wanted to follow the way that I wanted. They said, okay, I want to go the way that he's going. I gave them the Spirit, and they followed the Spirit. But you chose to reapproach them. To reproach them. For what? What you going to reproach them for? You reapproaching them for the ways of Christ? In the Spirit of glory resting upon them? But you talking about them, but you really talking about me. It says, verse 18, Thou hast trodden down all them that err from my statutes. He done trodden them down. He gonna trodden them down. But we need to understand what this trodden mean. We need to understand what all this trodden mean. And actually, to help us better understand what this is saying, let's go over here. Let's pick up Psalms and get a better understanding there. In Psalms, and we'll look at this in chapter 91, verse 13. Verse 13, and we'll see. To understand this trident, and it says, Thou shalt tread upon the lion, 1, including alder, snake, 2, more clarification, the young lion, including the dragon, shall thy trample under feet, under the desires. That's interesting. That is highly interesting. And people will sit there, they'll hold to everything else. And they want to sit there talking about what they're going to hold to, and talking about this lion and the snakes, he's going to trample over. In fact, let's go right here. Verse 11. It says, for he shall give his messengers charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. He's going to give him charge over his word, to where they sit there and they'll tell you what his word is and what you need to be doing. See, because most people that sit there and say, see this charge? Oh, see, I have rule over you. No, that's not what he's saying. I'm going to give my messengers charge over thee. He's giving him charge over that word to tell you what you need to know. Actually, let me show you something. I'm going to prove something to you. Because we're going to show you something, how everything works with Peter and everything else. Let me show you something. 1 Peter 5:3. We want. See right here? 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 3. It says, neither comparing being lords, being rulers over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. So these messengers is giving them the information, they're giving them a warning. To keep you in the way. So they constantly giving you this information, constantly. Verse 12 tells us even better. It says, they shall bear thee up in their powers, lest thou dash thy foot against the stone. With the powers of their knowledge that God has given them, they should be able to bear you up. Then you see what 13 hits. Now you're seeing more so what it's telling you. Because it's telling you, thou shalt tread upon the lion and the snake, the young lion and the dragon thou shalt trample under feet. Interesting. Highly interesting. And as he keeps going, he tells you, thou puttest away all the wicked of the earth like dross. For that reason, I love thy testimonies. And dross is just defiled and polluted. That's what he's telling us. The testimonies is the evidence. We can see it all through Scripture. All through Scripture, we're going to always see evidence of the testimonies of God. We have to keep that in mind on what he's telling us. Keep that in mind on what we need to do. In that last one, as he's finishing this out, he tells us, my flesh trembleth for fear of thee, semicolon, including I am afraid of thy judgments. That's interesting. Both of those are interesting because we got to remember something. Flesh. He said, my flesh trembling. Trembling is talking about sorrowing. So, my flesh trembling. My flesh is sorrowing for the fear of thee. Including I am afraid. He's fearful. I'm afraid of thy doctrines and teachings, which a lot of people are. Which a lot of people are. And keep this with you always. Psalms 119 and 142. Why we had that problem? Why we had that problem? 142. Thy righteousness is everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Many of us shall fear them because the righteousness of God, it is everlasting. Understand what I'm saying? That's everlasting. So, Shema, the God of Israel, will always hate certain things. He don't change. He tells you this. So he tells you, Shema, I hate vain thoughts. But he loves his law. And he hates evildoers. He's telling you all that right there. Depart from me, ye evildoers, I will keep the commandments of my God. So the vain ones with these vain thoughts, these vain ways, he's telling you right up front. He hates evildoers. And he will continue to hate evildoers. So with that, hopefully that everybody understood what we went through on this one here. But in the future, what we're going to end up doing on some of these, we're going to start running these in we got a few more to do, but we're going to run them in a private session area. And we're doing that for a reason. So some of the other ones we're going to put in a private area to where we'll come through and you must be registered there to make sure that it happens. And we're doing that for particular reasons, to make sure that things go out a certain way and people who actually trying to do out there and do teachings based on other things and still go out and do it in error, this way they don't get everything because they had to come through a certain way. And then I know they won't come through that way. So with that, I hope that each and every person understood. And if we have any questions, I'm more than happy right now to where I can open up the Zoom area. If anybody have any questions, But if I see nobody have any questions, then we will disengage from here and we will move forward. So I'm just waiting to see, do anybody have any questions based on what was taught? Any questions on what was taught? If not, we will go through and we will end this session for today. And let me see, so far we have nothing thus far. And I don't see no questions. No questions. Okay. So we're pretty clear. So we have no questions. We're going to get ready to end it. Let me get ready to pull that over. And look like we are pretty good. So with that, I'd say to each and every person, be safe, because I know a lot of people are going to be shooting all kinds of things out there today, and a lot of things going to be happening. So just make sure you be safe, and hopefully that no fireworks or anything goes over your homes or in your yards to where fires can kick up. So with that, I say to each and every person, until next time, I say to each and every one of you, Shalom.